The Thompson family's annual business meeting was always a special kind of torture, held in my Uncle Richard's mahogany-paneled office at Thompson Industries. Every year, family members would present their achievements, and every year I was relegated to the uncomfortable chair in the corner, the family's designated failure. I smoothed down my simple black dress, purposefully understated compared to my cousin's designer outfits, and watched as my cousin Marcus finished his presentation about his division's mediocre performance. "Excellent work, son," Uncle Richard boomed, completely ignoring that Marcus had actually lost money this quarter. "That's the Thompson's spirit." My Aunt Patricia adjusted her Cartier glasses, consulting her iPad. "Now what about our other family members?" Her gaze landed on me like I was a stain on her expensive Persian rug. I felt my phone vibrate in my purse but ignored it. My assistant knew not to disturb me during family meetings unless it was about Project Phoenix, our code name for the past year's secret operation. "Olivia," Uncle Richard sighed, leaning back in his leather chair, "what are you even doing these days? Still with that little startup of yours?" I smiled quietly. "Yes, Uncle Richard. Still running my company." My cousin Emma snickered. "Can you even call it a company? Last I heard you were working out of a warehouse district." If only they knew that warehouse district was actually a converted industrial complex housing one of the most advanced tech development centers in the country. But they'd never bothered to visit, so convinced were they of my failure. "At least she's trying," my mother offered weakly. Since Dad's death 5 years ago, she'd lost her voice in these meetings, especially after Uncle Richard had forced her to sell Dad's shares in Thompson Industries for a fraction of their worth. "Trying isn't enough in this family," Uncle Richard declared. "Thompson Industries has been a Fortune 500 company for 3 generations. We build empires, not—" He waved his hand dismissively at me. "Little hobby businesses." My phone buzzed again. Then again. Something was happening. "Speaking of building empires," my cousin Marcus chimed in, "wait until you hear about my new acquisition target. There's this promising tech company in the warehouse district." He trailed off with a smirk in my direction. I felt my lips twitch. "So that's what this meeting was really about." "Actually," I started, but Uncle Richard cut me off. "Olivia, let's be honest here. You've achieved nothing in life," he declared, standing up to his full height, using the power pose he was so proud of. "Your father would be disappointed. He built something real, something substantial before his unfortunate passing." The room grew quiet at the mention of Dad. I gripped my phone tighter, thinking about the last conversation I'd had with him, about his secret plans, about the promise I'd made. "It's not too late," Aunt Patricia added with false sympathy. "We could find you a proper position here at Thompson Industries. Something suitable for your capabilities." My phone buzzed one final time. I glanced at the screen and had to bite back a laugh. Just then the double doors burst open. My assistant, Kate, rushed in, perfectly styled in a designer suit that cost more than my cousin's combined outfits. "Madame CEO," she called out, not even acknowledging the family meeting in progress. "Your acquisition of their company is complete. The board just approved the final paperwork." The room went silent. Uncle Richard's face turned an interesting shade of purple. "What acquisition?" Marcus demanded. "What is she talking about?" I stood up slowly, smoothing my simple dress. "Oh, didn't you know?" I smiled, pulling up the news alert on my phone. "Phoenix Technologies just acquired controlling interest in Thompson Industries. The board approved it approximately—" I checked my watch, 2 minutes ago. "That's impossible," Uncle Richard sputtered. "Phoenix Technologies is my company," I finished for him. "That little startup in the warehouse district? It's worth 12 times what Thompson Industries was. And now, well." I turned to Kate. "What's my new title?" Kate grinned. "Chairman and CEO of both Phoenix Technologies and Thompson Industries, madam." The sound of Aunt Patricia's iPad clattering to the floor was particularly satisfying. But this was just the beginning. After all, I had a promise to keep, to my father, to myself, and to every person in this room who'd called me useless. The chaos that erupted in Uncle Richard's office was something worthy of a Shakespeare play. Marcus knocked over his chair trying to grab his phone, presumably to call his broker. Aunt Patricia was hyperventilating into her Hermes scarf, while Emma just kept repeating, "This isn't possible, like a broken designer record. You can't do this. Uncle Richard roared, his face now verging on dangerous levels of purple. The board would never approve selling to your useless niece? I finished for him, pulling up the shareholder documents on my phone. Actually, they did. Unanimously. Would you like to know why? My mother, who had been silently watching everything unfold, suddenly straightened in her chair. He knew. She had to remember what Dad had told her before he died. Because, I continued, nodding to Kate, who began distributing folders to everyone in the room, Thompson Industries is failing. Your leadership, I looked pointedly at Uncle Richard, has driven this company into the ground. The board has been looking for a way out for months. Marcus frantically flipped through the folder. But I just presented our quarterly numbers. Fake numbers, I corrected. Creative accounting that would make Enron blush. Did you really think nobody would notice? The color drained from Uncle Richard's face. You're lying. Page 3, Kate announced helpfully. Complete audit results from the last 5 years. Quite an interesting read. Emma jumped up, pointing an accusatory finger at me. You planned this. You've been spying on us. I laughed, and the sound echoed off the mahogany panels. Spying? Oh. I've been watching you destroy my father's legacy. The company he built, the one you forced my mother to sell her shares in after his death. I turned to Uncle Richard. Remember that day, Uncle? When you told Mom the shares were worthless and bought them for pennies. It was a fair business decision, he protested weakly. Fair. My mother's voice cut through the room like a steel blade. You knew Richard. You knew what David had built, what he was planning. Dad's quantum computing division, I said softly. The one you shut down immediately after taking control, calling it a waste of resources. The same technology that Phoenix Technologies used to become an industry leader. The room went deadly quiet as understanding dawned on their faces. That's right, I confirmed. Dad knew he was sick. He knew you would try to take over. So he made sure I had everything I needed, the patents, the research, the key personnel contacts. While you were all laughing at my little startup in the warehouse district, I was building what Dad always knew was possible. Kate cleared her throat. The transition team is waiting outside, Madam CEO. And the press conference is scheduled for an hour from now. Press conference? Aunt Patricia squeaked. Of course, I smiled. The business world is very interested in how a little hobby business managed to acquire one of the oldest family companies in the country. Especially given the irregularities we've uncovered. Marcus slumped in his chair. We'll be ruined. No, I corrected him, standing up and straightening my simple black dress, which they'd soon learn was actually a bespoke creation that cost more than their cars. You're being saved. By the person you called useless. I walked to the large windows overlooking the city, remembering all the times I'd stood here as a child while Dad explained his dreams for the company. Phoenix Technologies will absorb Thompson Industries. We'll save thousands of jobs, restore the company's reputation, and implement Dad's original vision. And what about us? Emma asked in a small voice. I turned back to face my family. That depends. Are you ready to actually work? To earn your positions? To prove your worth based on merit rather than your last name? The silence was deafening. Olivia, my mother said quietly, tears in her eyes, your father would be so proud. I squeezed her hand as Kate opened the office doors, letting in a stream of executives and lawyers. I know, Mom. He told me this would happen right before he died. He said, sometimes the best revenge is building something so big they can't ignore it. As my shell-shocked family watched their empire change hands, I sat down in Uncle Richard's chair, my chair now. Kate, I called out, let's begin the restructuring meetings. I believe we have some positions to reevaluate. The day of reckoning had arrived and I was just getting started. The next few hours unfolded like a corporate thriller. The Thompson Industries boardroom, now my boardroom, hosted a parade of shocked executives, frantic lawyers, and one very satisfying press conference. I sat at the head of the table, my simple black dress now a symbol of power rather than the mark of an outsider. Uncle Richard and his children were relegated to the side chairs, the same ones they'd always made me sit in. As your new CEO, I addressed the gathered executives, I want to be clear about our path forward. Phoenix Technologies isn't just acquiring Thompson Industries, we're revolutionizing it. Kate efficiently distributed new folders, our 100-day transformation plan. I watched as Uncle Richard's face grew increasingly pale as he read through the documents. You're dismantling everything, he sputtered. No, I corrected him, pulling up a holographic display that filled the room with our new organizational structure. I'm fixing everything you broke. The display showed the quantum computing division, Dad's dream, restored as the company's centerpiece. Around it, dozens of innovative projects that Uncle Richard had deemed wasteful were being revived and enhanced with Phoenix Technologies' resources. Marcus raised his hand timidly, a far cry from his usual arrogant demeanor. What about our positions? Ah, yes, I smiled, nodding to Kate, who pulled up their performance reviews. Let's discuss that. Marcus, your division has lost $142 million through creative accounting. Emma, your strategic initiatives have resulted in 3 potential SEC violations. And Uncle Richard. I paused for effect. Selling company secrets to competitors? Really? The room gasped. Aunt Patricia looked like she might faint. You can't prove. Uncle Richard started. Email server logs. I cut him off. Dad may have trusted you, but he wasn't stupid. He left a backup of everything. I've spent 5 years building the case while you were all too busy mocking my little hobby business to notice. My mother, sitting quietly beside me, finally spoke up. Richard, how could you? Your own brother's company. Now, I continued, I could have you all arrested. The evidence is quite compelling. I let that sink in for a moment. But Dad always believed in second chances. So here's yours. Kate distributed another set of documents, their new contracts. You can stay with the company, I explained, but with some changes. Marcus, you'll be working in entry-level accounting where you'll learn proper financial practices. Emma, you're joining the compliance department as a junior analyst. And Uncle Richard. He looked up from the contract, his face ashen. Junior sales representative? You can't be serious. Actually, I am. You wanted me to have a proper position in the company? Well, now you can show me how it's done. Starting with the basics. Cold calling, client meetings, earning your place. This is humiliation. Aunt Patricia protested. No, I corrected her. This is accountability. Something this family has lacked for too long. Just then the boardroom doors opened and a familiar face walked in. James Chin, Dad's old research partner who'd disappeared after Uncle Richard took over. Dr. Chin will be heading our restored quantum computing division, I announced. The same position he held before being forcibly retired by previous management. Retired? Marcus scoffed. He quit. After you threatened to expose his family's immigration status, I replied coldly. Another interesting email chain Dad preserved. The room fell silent again. Dr. Chin smiled at me, the same kind smile he'd given me years ago when he'd secretly helped me understand Dad's research. Your father would be proud, Olivia, he said quietly. You've built something remarkable. I stood up, smoothing my dress. Speaking of building things, let's discuss the future. Kate, please show them the Phoenix project. The holographic display shifted to show our next 5 years of planned innovations, developments that would make our quantum computing breakthrough look minor in comparison. This, I gestured to the display, is why Phoenix Technologies was worth 12 times Thompson Industries. And this is why you all have a choice to make right now. I looked at each family member in turn. You can accept these positions, learn humility, and be part of something extraordinary. Or you can walk away, though the SEC might have some questions if you do. Uncle Richard's hand trembled as he picked up his pen. One by one they signed the contracts, accepting their new roles, their new reality. Welcome to the new Thompson Phoenix Industries, I announced. Where success is earned, not inherited. Where innovation matters more than last names. And where, I smiled at my mother, we honor the legacy of those who built something real. As they filed out, headed to their new, much smaller offices, Kate approached with another stack of documents. The SEC investigators are waiting, Madam CEO. Shall I send them in? I looked at my uncles retreating back. No, Kate. Let them sweat a little longer. After all, they taught me that timing is everything. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just taking over the company, it's making them work their way back up from the bottom, just like they always said I should. 1 year later, I stood at the window of what used to be Uncle Richard's office, now transformed into a modern command center for Thompson Industries. The mahogany panels had been replaced with smart glass displaying real-time company data, and the old leather furniture had given way to ergonomic workstations. Kate entered with our morning briefing. "Interesting developments in the family division," she reported with a slight smirk. "Oh." I turned genuinely curious. The past year had been educational for everyone involved. Uncle Richard actually closed his first major sale yesterday. Legitimately. She emphasized the last word, knowing how he'd previously relied on fabricated numbers. "He's requested a meeting to discuss his performance review." I smiled, remembering how he'd struggled with basic sales training, how his first cold calls had ended in disaster, how he'd had to learn humility the hard way. "Schedule it for next week. Let him sweat a bit more." "And Marcus?" I asked, though I already knew the answer from our monitoring systems. "Currently in the accounting department, triple-checking expense reports. He's actually become quite meticulous after that ethics training course we mandated." Kate pulled up his performance metrics. The irony of him catching financial irregularities in other departments hasn't escaped anyone. The door opened again and my mother walked in, no longer the quiet, subdued woman she'd been a year ago. As our new head of corporate legacy and innovation, she'd found her voice again, ensuring Dad's original vision remained at the heart of our operations. "Emma's project proposal just landed on my desk," she announced, looking both amused and proud. "She wants to establish a compliance training program for new employees, based on her experiences this past year." "The same Emma who nearly got us in trouble with the SEC?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "The very same. Though now she's quite passionate about corporate responsibility. Amazing what a year of working in compliance can do." I sat down at my desk, pulling up the company's latest numbers. Our stock had tripled since the merger. The quantum computing division was revolutionizing the industry, and employee satisfaction was at an all-time high. "There's one more thing," Kate added, hesitating slightly. "Aunt Patricia has requested to join the company's mentorship program, as a mentee." That made me pause. Aunt Patricia, who'd spent years looking down her nose at everyone, wanted to learn? "From whom?" "Dr. Chin," Kate replied with a grin. "Apparently she's developed an interest in understanding the actual technology behind our success." The intercom buzzed. "Ms. Thompson Phoenix? The quarterly family business meeting is about to start." Ah yes, the new tradition I'd established. Very different from the old family meetings where success was measured by last names and false bravado. Now, every quarter each family member had to present their actual achievements, backed by real data and peer reviews. "Ready for today's presentations?" asked my mother. She smiled. "Richard's been practicing his sales pitch all week. And Marcus actually created a proper PowerPoint instead of just making up numbers." We walked to the conference room, no longer mahogany-paneled but gleaming with technology. My formerly arrogant family members sat waiting, each clutching their presentations, each looking nervous but different. Humbled. Uncle Richard stood up as I entered. Miss Thompson Phoenix. I'd like to go first today." I nodded, taking my seat at the head of the table. "1 year ago," he began, his voice lacking its old bombast, "I thought I knew everything about business. Today, I'm learning that success isn't about appearances or power plays. It's about actual work, integrity, and—" He glanced at me, admitting when you've been wrong. I looked around the table at my transformed family. Marcus, now passionate about financial accuracy. Emma, championing corporate ethics. Aunt Patricia, finally interested in understanding rather than just commanding. "The floor is yours, Uncle Richard," I said softly. "Show us what you've learned." As he began his presentation, a genuine, honest report of his sales achievements and challenges, I thought about Dad. About his belief that everyone deserved a chance to prove themselves. About his vision of a company built on merit rather than manipulation. Kate leaned over and whispered, "Your father would be proud. Not just of the company's success but of how you changed them." I nodded, watching my once arrogant uncle earnestly explaining his sales strategy. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't just proving them wrong, it's teaching them how to be right. "Next quarter," I whispered back, "we might even let them have comfortable chairs."